right, class, welcome to your first lecture of your online learning. So we are starting a new unit today. So I want you to go into Notability just like we've been doing all year long, and I want you to make a new subject in Notability. And I want you to call it classification. So this is the name of our first unit here for the fourth quarter. There'll be a second one that'll be called Human Body Systems that will be starting in April. Not in April, in May. So this unit is going to take about 4 weeks, and then we'll do the human body system for 4 weeks, and then it will be the end of the year. So do that first, and then you're going to have 3 things you have to do this week. So how this is going to be set up is there'll be 2 modules. Each one is a 2-day period, and the first thing you're going to need to do that'll be available tomorrow will be a discussion. So you'll have to go onto Canvas and click on it's called After Break Discussion, and you're going to have to go on there and answer 2 questions. And then you're going to have to reply to somebody. So what does that mean, reply to somebody? That means you have to read somebody's, what they wrote, and then you have to reply to it. Okay, so say something to them, and remember, it needs to be school appropriate. If it's not appropriate, I know who you are. There will be some conversations we'll have. But I want to see how many of you are logging into Canvas, so I am going to take a look at this, and I will be making note of who's actually doing it and who's not doing it. So that will be starting tomorrow, will be available. So you can just go on there. It doesn't take very long. There's 2 questions there that are pretty easy to answer, and then I want you to reply to 1 person, okay? Then you're going to have your first homework assignment, which is going to be a reading on taxonomy. Taxonomy is the science of classifying animals, which is what we're doing in this unit. So this is going to be a reading. It's going to be worth 20 points. It's about a 3-page reading with questions, and it also has a graphic that you're going to have to look at. Looks like this, where you're going to have to answer questions that pertain to this graphic. Some of the questions might be a little challenging, so if you have any questions and you need help, you can always email me, and I'm available during my office hours. All right, the other thing you have to do this week that will be made available, probably, I might just make both of these available at the beginning of the week so that you can just do them whenever you want. But the second thing is I call it animal types web activity. And this is where you're going to do a virtual tour of some animals at the San Diego Zoo, and you're going to pick ones that you're interested in, and you're going to read about them and answer some questions about them. So both of these assignments are worth 20 points, and they're both going to be due on Friday of this week for everyone, okay? So now with the new, I can't remember what Friday's date is. Now with the new system, since we're not going to be going into class, every week you should expect to see 3 hours of work, and which you should find both of these should be about 3 hours. It might take you less than that. I'm going to ask you guys next week how much time you spent on this, but about 3 hours, and then things will be due on that Friday for everybody, okay, since we're not participating in having class in school. So Friday for us is going to be the 3rd, so it's 4-3, okay? So both of these assignments will be due this coming Friday at midnight, okay? So keep track of that. 2 assignments and a discussion due on Friday. All right, so I want to do a really quick lecture on classification. So this really should be review for a lot of you at some point, either in elementary school or middle school. Your teachers probably taught you about this, but it's always good to review, and especially since you have to do that reading, this will help you with that reading. So when scientists locate a new living organism, they want to classify it. They want to give it a name and wonder where it falls compared to other animals that we know about. And so they group them into these levels, starting with the largest level, which is kingdom. So there's 6 kingdoms. The one that you are a part of, and the one that all animals on the planet are part of, is called Animalia. Animalia. Can't just be animal, because when these classifications were being made, they were using Latin. So it is the animal kingdom, but in biology we call it Animalia. So this kingdom, this first top level of classifications, is very, very broad. It includes every single animal on the planet, okay? Super duper broad. And as you move down, it becomes more and more specific, where the bottom one is the species. So this is, remember this term, you guys have had this as a vocab word, even in the last unit. This is an animal that can and will reproduce, and they'll produce fertile offspring. So you can't do that with animals and other levels of classification. Only species can do that. So we're going to go down here, and I'm going to classify one of my favorite animals, which is the dog, just the common domestic dog. So they are in the kingdom Animalia, just like you and I. Their phylum is called the Chordata. And what this means is that they have a backbone. So you are also in the phylum Chordata, along with snakes and fish and any animal that has a backbone. Okay, a chordata is a chordate. It refers to your backbone. So we're still classifying a dog here. So their class is they're mammals. But it's not just mammal, it's mammalia. So they're mammals, which means they have fur, they're warm-blooded, they give live birth. So you are also a mammal. So are bears and giraffes and lots of animals. So we're still pretty broad here, all right? We still have a lot of different animals that would fall into the class Mammalia. Moving down with dogs, they're in the order Carnivora, because they are carnivores. So they are underneath the order Carnivora. That's some other animals that are part of this are the cat family. So animals that eat meat. Remember, carnivore means they only eat meat. The family for dogs is Canidae. I didn't spell that right. Canidae. Sorry. So Canidae, this includes foxes, wolves, and dogs, and any other animal that's on the planet that's dog-like. So up till here, this would include any kind of animal that's similar to a dog. But then as we go down to genus, we're becoming more and more specific here. And so the genus for dogs, and I'm going to try to write this in a special way because there is a rule that you guys are going to have to learn for how you write genus and species name. But the genus is Canis. Okay? So this still includes wolves, because wolves are in the same genus as dogs. But for dogs, for your domestic dog that's living at your house with you, if you have one, their species name is Familiaris. Familiaris. like it's a familiar dog, right? So that this term came from that, to be familiar, something that we're used to having around. So I want to point out that there was something very specific that I was trying to do. It's hard to do when you're writing it. So, but there is a special rule that both of these two names follow. And that rule is that genus is always capitalized. See how I made this a uppercase C? And species is never capitalized. So a species name is always a lowercase letter at the beginning, and genus always has a capital letter at the beginning. And both of these names should be italicized, okay? Which means they slant when you write them, right? Italicized means there's a slant. It's really hard to write in italicize. So if you're using your keyboard on your iPad, there's a little uppercase I that's slanted. That is how you get your letters to go slanty. So this is something that I'm going to hold you accountable to using whenever I'm asking for the genus and species name of any animal. You must capitalize genus, lowercase species, and all the letters should be italicized. Okay? So I'm going to write those rules down because I want you guys to remember that. So everything on the every living thing on the planet has a common name, and these are the ones that we become more familiar with because we aren't using the scientific Latin name. We don't call our dogs Canis familiaris. We call them a dog, right? So this other term where you're using the genus and species, this is called binomial nomenclature. That seems really, really like a big mouthful. But what it means is two names. So every living thing, when you're calling it by its scientific name, you're calling it by its genus and species name together. Okay, and that's a term that a scientist came up with. His name was Linnaeus, and you're going to be reading about Linnaeus. He was the one who started classifying animals and plants and things that he was finding. And so this is something that scientists have kept. Okay, so we call that the scientific name. Scientific name. And we use genus and species. So for the dog, the scientific name is this Canis familiaris. Okay? And those rules that I want you to remember, even though every single year students forget these rules, they are, as such, always capitalize genus, never capitalize species, and the third rule is they are all italicized. All of the letters of genus and species should be italicized. Okay? When I say always capitalize genus, that doesn't mean that all the letters are all caps. Okay? It just means the first letter is capitalized. That's what the word capitalize means. And species should be lowercase. So I want to quickly ask if you know what our scientific name is for our species that we are a part of. So our common name is what? I hope you all know this. We are humans, right? So that's our common name, but that is not our scientific name. We have a genus. We are under the genus Homo. And does anyone know our species name? It is sapiens. So Homo sapiens is our scientific name. This is our genus name and our species name. So you've got to remember these rules that I've given you where I'm going to be holding you accountable to them. I'm going to be asking that you use them in assignments, and I might even throw a quiz question at you where you have to tell me the rules and show me that you know how to do this. So keep this in mind, okay? And the last thing that I want to say about this levels of classification is there's a way, you don't have to memorize it. I'm not going to ask you to memorize it, but there is a way that I was taught how to memorize it when I was in school. And that was that King Philip came over for good soup. Okay, there's 7 levels of classification, starting with the largest up here, the kingdoms, and moving down to this more specific species. So you have a reading on this, so you have to answer some questions and do some reading about it. And if you have any questions at all, please feel free to give me, send me an email. My office hours are in that video that I just sent you, but they are from 10 to 11 in the morning and from 2 to 3 in the afternoon. Okay, so these are my office hours. What that means is that during these 2 hours, if you email me, you can expect to get an email back from me very quickly, okay? I will be responding to any questions. So specifically, if you have questions on the assignment, either the assignment, how to turn it in, or something's not working, anything you have that comes up, please email me during these office hours. Okay, hope you guys have a good first week. Let me know if everything's, if you have any problems, or, and I also, again, keep track of how long things are taking, because I will be asking if things are taking longer than 3 hours for 1 week. Okay.